Theology in 4 minutes. Topic: The Problem of Evil, Part 3. Because of the need to cover all our bases, this video will be extending the self-imposed time limit by 1 minute more than normal. In Part 2, we looked at moral evil, why a good God might allow human beings to choose wrong. But that still leaves the harder question: why do people suffer? Not just because of human evil, but through things like disease, disaster, and death, things that nobody chooses. And because of the emotional weight this problem carries, a single explanation usually isn't enough. So historically, several ideas referred to as theodicies work together to form a bigger picture. The most popular one is often called soul-making. The idea is that certain virtues like courage, compassion, and endurance cannot exist in a world without real difficulty that challenges them. A world without danger produces no bravery. A world without hardship produces no perseverance. Enduring and growing from difficulty can be instrumental in the formation of moral and spiritual strength. As the saying goes, the hottest flames forge the strongest steel. This also leads into the idea of perspective by contrast. If peace and prosperity were simply the default mode of being, then they wouldn't truly be appreciated for what they are. Only when set against the alternatives of hardship and suffering can one truly appreciate what they have. Without that contrast, we would be like spoiled children, who always get what we want, with no appreciation for the good times when they do occur. Another is the idea of a stable and orderly world. For life to be predictable, reality has to operate according to consistent laws like gravity, biology, and chemistry. But those same laws that make life possible can also cause suffering. The same tectonic processes that shape the earth can produce earthquakes. The same biological processes that sustain life can produce disease. If God constantly suspended these processes to prevent harm, the world would become inconsistent and unintelligible. One counter-argument is that if God truly was all-powerful, then he could have just made a simpler, more perfect world. Of course, those who believe in heaven argue that he actually did, but our world is not in heaven. We do not live in Eden. We are distanced from God. And thus, the evil and suffering of our world is merely the absence of goodness and peace of Eden. Much like how the cold is merely the absence of heat, or darkness the absence of light. Now, a rather unpopular theodicy is the limitation of human understanding. From the human experience, excessive suffering often appears pointless. But this is a human perspective, born from grief at best, or arrogance at worst. For if God is all-knowing, and we are not, then it is at least possible that there are reasons beyond our immediate understanding. This doesn't explain suffering, nor will it comfort those experiencing it. But it does challenge the assumption that if we don't see a reason, then there must not be a reason. This is the moral teaching of the book of Job, where suffering is real and intense, but never fully explained from the human point of view. A more relatable example would be someone who lost a job at the World Trade Center on September 10, 2001. They might initially see it as misfortune, only to recognize it differently about a day later. There is also what might be called the redemptive arc. In Christianity in particular, suffering is not something merely observed from a distance, but something that God willingly allows himself to enter into along with us. The central claim of Christianity is that God participates in human suffering through the life of Jesus, culminating in his crucifixion and resurrection. He does not remove suffering from the world, but defeats it. Death is not meaningless, and it is not the final word. The word is. Taken together, these ideas do not eliminate the emotional weight of suffering, they do not make tragedy feel acceptable, and they do not erase grief or loss, but they do address the logical challenge. They show that the existence of suffering is not necessarily incompatible with a God who is all-powerful, all-knowing, and good. Finally, there is also a forward-looking promise. Heaven. The promise of heaven is a state in which suffering ends, justice is fulfilled, and what is broken is made whole. Mortal suffering is not ultimate, it is seen as if waking up from a dream or nightmare, and suddenly feeling the joy and comfort knowing that an eternity of happiness far outweighs whatever experience preceded it. Pain is temporary, but peace is everlasting.